I can't mimic voices for love or money. I'm completely hopeless at it.
On the loving help of my darling wife, Camilla. In recognition of her own loyal public service since our marriage 17 years ago, she becomes my Queen Consort.
Could this really be happening to Queen Camilla? Just 5 minutes ago, a shocking announcement rippled through Buckingham Palace, sending tremors not just across the royal household, but across the entire nation. The streets of London buzzed with confusion, while behind the palace gates, whispers escalated into tension that no eye had seen before. Camilla, who has stood loyally by King Charles through years of scrutiny and quiet resilience, now finds herself facing a challenge that could redefine her place in the monarchy forever.
During those early years as a working royal, Camilla faced an uphill battle as the public was still very much skeptical of her and the role she played in the demise of Charles and Diana's marriage.
The cameras were flashing, news tickers racing, and yet, for those inside, the moment was far more intimate, a test of legacy, patience, and power. What could provoke such sudden heartbreak? Was it an unexpected decision from within the palace walls, a matter of protocol, or something entirely unforeseen? Every glance, every hurried step of aides hinted at a storm gathering beneath the surface of royal poise. For years, Camilla has quietly carved her role, moving from public skepticism to cautious respect. And tonight, that hard-won place hangs by a thread. The questions are many, the answers few. Stay with us as we uncover the full story, revealing the truth behind this shocking moment that has left the monarchy and the world on edge. The calm before the storm. The morning began like any other for Queen Camilla, yet there was a subtle tension in the air that even she could sense. She stepped out of her private chambers, greeting the early morning sunlight filtering through the palace windows. As she waved to onlookers gathered behind the iron gates, she offered polite smiles and brief nods, her demeanor composed and regal. Reporters positioned themselves along the palace grounds, cameras ready, pens poised to capture every word and every gesture. Camilla exchanged courteous greetings with them, acknowledging their presence with calm professionalism. Yet beneath that calm, there was a sense that something was different. Something heavier than the usual flurry of royal activity. Her day proceeded with the familiar rhythm of royal duty. Charity visits were scheduled, meetings with advisors lined up, and engagements with dignitaries carefully planned. On the surface, it appeared ordinary, the kind of day that Londoners have come to associate with the steady presence of their queen consort. But beneath that routine, the palace hummed with an unusual energy. Staff moved briskly through the corridors, their steps quicker than usual, their expressions tight with concern. Phones buzzed relentlessly, private conversations whispered behind closed doors, and every movement seemed charged with urgency. What normally would have been a day of calm routine was now filled with an undercurrent of unease, invisible to the casual observer, but palpable to anyone attuned to the subtleties of palace life. Even Queen Camilla, known for her grace and composure, could not ignore the shifts around her. Each glance from a passing aide, every subtle nod exchanged between senior staff, carried weight. The usual order of protocol felt slightly unsettled. Meetings started earlier than expected, discussions stretched longer than usual, and the atmosphere was thick with anticipation. For decades, Buckingham Palace had been a place where crises were managed with meticulous care, where scandals, controversies, and unexpected events were quietly handled behind the grandeur of public appearances. Yet today, something felt different. The tension was heavier, almost tangible, as if the walls themselves held their breath. Outside, Londoners carried on with their routines, unaware of the storm quietly brewing inside the historic walls. Tourists clicked photographs of the palace, children waved at passing guards, and the city hummed with its usual rhythm. To them, the day seemed ordinary, but inside those grand halls, every footstep, every hushed conversation, and every hurried movement told another story, a story of a palace bracing for news that could alter history. The calm seen by the public was only a mask, a carefully maintained facade. Behind it, preparations were underway for a revelation that could shake not just the life of Queen Camilla, but the very foundations of the monarchy itself. Every gesture, every glance, every silent exchange carried meaning, setting the stage for a day that would be remembered not for its routine, but for the storm it quietly heralded. A legacy at risk. Queen Camilla's journey to acceptance within the royal family and the public eye was never straightforward. From the very beginning, she faced relentless scrutiny, whispered judgments, and waves of criticism that could have broken anyone's resolve. Headlines once painted her as the outsider, the figure overshadowed by the memory of Diana, Princess of Wales. Each public appearance, each smile, each carefully chosen word was dissected, analyzed, and judged, leaving her no room for error. Yet despite the constant pressure, Camilla endured. She learned to navigate the complexities of royal life with patience and poise, quietly proving her dedication to duty. Over time, the public began to notice her efforts, the charitable initiatives she championed, the consistent presence at royal engagements.
Her Majesty the Queen was in Cornwall today as part of a special visit to 3 charities of which she is the patron. Camilla's first stop was a visit to the Truro-based humanitarian relief organisation Shelterbox,
and her commitment to supporting King Charles through controversies and triumphs. Slowly but surely, Camilla transformed her image. Where once she was seen as an outsider, whispers of approval and respect began to surface. Her rise was not instant, nor was it easy. Acceptance was earned one deliberate action at a time, from charitable visits that touched communities to private support offered to the royal family in moments of personal crisis. Her patience became a hallmark of her legacy. She did not seek to dominate headlines. Instead, she allowed her work and her character to speak for themselves. The cautious respect she eventually gained was a testament to decades of resilience, of knowing when to step forward and when to step back, and of quietly building credibility in a world that expected perfection while offering little forgiveness. Camilla's legacy, as it had been shaped over years of effort and sacrifice, was one of steady determination and unwavering loyalty. But tonight, all of that hangs in the balance. A single announcement, a single royal decision has the power to undo decades of perseverance. In the blink of an eye, the careful narrative she constructed could face its greatest threat. The stakes extend far beyond personal reputation. Every statement issued, every move made within the palace walls is a reflection of the monarchy itself. What appears to the world as a calm and orderly institution is, in reality, a complex structure maintained by tradition, loyalty, and perception. Camilla's role within it is integral, yet fragile. The slightest shift could tip the balance, affecting not only her personal journey, but also the public's perception of the royal family as a whole. Tonight, the palace holds its collective breath. Behind closed doors, advisors weigh consequences, messages are carefully crafted, and history is considered with every word. The legacy Camilla has fought to establish is under scrutiny, facing a test that could redefine her place in history. Her years of dedication, resilience, and quiet leadership now confront a moment where even the strongest foundations feel uncertain. Will her legacy endure, or will this turning point challenge everything she has worked so hard to achieve? The world watches, the palace prepares, and Queen Camilla waits, knowing that her story, her hard-earned place beside the king, may now face its greatest trial yet. The palace in turmoil. By midday, Buckingham Palace, a place usually known for its composed grandeur, was anything but ordinary. The air inside felt charged, as though the walls themselves were holding their breath. Aides moved with unusual urgency, rushing between rooms with folders in hand and phones pressed tightly to their ears. Senior staff gathered in corners, speaking in hushed tones, eyes darting around as if the very atmosphere demanded secrecy. Security personnel, typically a quiet presence in the background, now patrolled more visibly, their eyes scanning every corridor, every visitor. Even King Charles, who had grown accustomed to the rhythms of palace life, seemed tense, his usual calm replaced by an unmistakable heaviness. Something had shifted subtly, yet undeniably. Reports trickled out from insiders, suggesting that decisions were no longer the routine procedural matters of daily royal governance. Instead, they were urgent debates unfolding in real time, with alliances questioned and old loyalties tested. The palace, historically a symbol of order and decorum, now seemed like a chessboard where every move carried monumental consequences. Camilla, who had spent decades quietly building her place within these walls, now faced uncertainty from the very institution she had served with unwavering loyalty. The same hallways where she had once exchanged polite words with aides and diplomats alike now hummed with tension, whispers of speculation spreading from room to room. Outside, the contrast could not have been starker. Tourists strolled along the palace gates, taking photographs of the iconic facade, unaware of the turmoil within. Yet the public and media, ever perceptive, sensed that something monumental was unfolding. Every shuttered window, every closed gate, every delay in statements from palace spokespeople fed the growing speculation. Social media exploded with theories, hashtags trending within minutes, each more dramatic than the last. Reporters stationed outside the gate spoke of unusual movements, aides disappearing into private entrances, senior staff emerging with hurried expressions, and cars entering restricted areas without explanation. Londoners whispered among themselves, their curiosity tinged with concern. What could be happening that even the king and his closest advisors could not resolve quietly? Inside those historic walls, the pace of activity was relentless. Meetings, some lasting far longer than scheduled, involved advisors weighing options, weighing history, and considering the optics of every possible decision. Even minor details: who would speak, what phrasing would be used, how the announcement would reach the public, were examined repeatedly. Each word, each gesture, carried the weight of the crown. Camilla's role in these deliberations was delicate. She had endured public criticism for years, navigating the shadow of past controversies, yet now she confronted internal uncertainty, the kind that could destabilize even the most carefully maintained legacies. The very palace that had once been a haven for her rise to acceptance now seemed to test her resolve like never before. Meanwhile, the atmosphere outside added another layer of tension. News vans lined the streets, anchors speaking urgently into cameras, and onlookers speculating aloud about the sudden flurry of activity. Rumors swirled. Was this about the health of the king? A major policy shift? Or was it something far more personal, touching the role and future of Queen Camilla herself? Each theory gained traction, each pause in official communication, fueling further uncertainty. Within, aides worked tirelessly, juggling the need for discretion with the imperative of preparation. Couriers moved rapidly between offices carrying notes, drafts of statements, and private communications. Faces were drawn, expressions serious, reflecting the pressure of the moment. Even the most seasoned staff felt the weight of history pressing down on their shoulders. Decisions made today would not only affect the monarchy's immediate image, but would also echo for generations to come. In this rare intersection of tradition, loyalty, and public scrutiny, Queen Camilla's place was suddenly far from secure. And so, the palace, long a symbol of continuity and stability, found itself in the midst of unprecedented turbulence. While the public outside speculated endlessly, the real story remained locked behind its walls, a story of tension, deliberation, and the fragile nature of legacy. Every movement, every conversation, every quiet glance inside Buckingham Palace carried significance. the world could only watch, waiting for a revelation that might reshape not only Camilla's future, but the monarchy itself. Public reaction and rising tension. News of the shocking announcement about Queen Camilla spread like wildfire, reaching every corner of the United Kingdom within minutes. Television networks interrupted their regular programming, rolling out live coverage as anchors spoke in urgent tones. News tickers scrolled across screens, highlighting the crisis, while reporters scrambled to capture even the smallest detail from outside Buckingham Palace. Social media erupted almost simultaneously. Hashtags about Queen Camilla trended within minutes, with millions of posts sharing opinions, speculation, and outright shock. The digital world became a stage for debates, emotions, and divided loyalties, reflecting the intense fascination and concern the public had for the monarchy. Public opinion split sharply and almost instantly. On one side were those who felt deep sympathy for Camilla. They remembered her long journey from public criticism to gradual acceptance, her patient efforts to earn a place beside King Charles, and the countless hours she dedicated to charitable causes, literacy programs, and royal duties. To this group, she represented loyalty, grace, and resilience, qualities that seemed increasingly rare in a world dominated by instant judgments and sensational headlines. The mere thought that she might lose status, influence, or recognition felt profoundly unfair. Some even spoke of her quietly enduring the weight of public scrutiny and palace politics, only to be blindsided now by forces beyond her control. On the other side were those who argued that the monarchy required a fresh start. They believed that the younger royals, William and Catherine, represented the future stability of the crown and the modernization of the monarchy in a rapidly changing world. To these voices, Camilla symbolized the past, a reminder of controversies, criticism, and old conflicts. Difficult decisions, they argued, were necessary to secure the monarchy's long-term survival. To them, the institution itself had to take precedence over individual legacy or personal sentiment, even if it meant making choices that might seem harsh to the public. Internationally, the ripple effects were equally significant. Newspapers in Europe, America, and beyond carried the story on their front pages, with analysts dissecting every possible implication. Commentators debated what the announcement meant, not only for Britain, but for the Commonwealth and the monarchy's global standing. Diplomatic observers speculated on potential shifts in perception abroad, wondering how the world would interpret sudden tensions within one of the most closely watched royal families in history. Headlines questioned whether the stability of the monarchy was being challenged and what precedent this might set for future generations. Meanwhile, within the UK, the public response was increasingly complex. Families gathered around televisions, watching rolling coverage with a mix of concern and curiosity. Conversations shifted from daily news to speculation about loyalty, legacy, and the future of the crown. Some citizens brought flowers or notes to the gates of Buckingham Palace, symbolic gestures of support. Others debated passionately in cafes, pubs, and online forums, weighing the perceived justice of Camilla's treatment against the needs of the monarchy itself. This was no longer simply a story confined to the palace walls. Every tweet, news clip, and social conversation amplified the tension, forcing the monarchy to navigate scrutiny from every possible angle. Diplomats, staff, and royal aides were acutely aware that each decision would be observed, analyzed, and judged by millions around the world. The stakes had become enormous, not just for Camilla personally, but for the credibility, reputation, and very survival of the monarchy in the public eye. The moment that began as a palace announcement had evolved into a global spectacle, with attention and expectation converging from every corner. Every passing minute intensified the pressure. The public's curiosity, speculation, and divided opinions made it clear. This was a turning point, a moment in history where perception mattered as much as fact. Queen Camilla's place, the monarchy's image, and the balance of tradition and modernity all hung in the air, fragile yet impossible to ignore. The Queen in private. Inside Buckingham Palace, away from the flashing cameras and prying eyes, Queen Camilla confronted the news that had sent shockwaves through the nation. While the public only saw the usual calm composure of a monarch, behind closed doors, emotions were far more intense. Sources close to the palace describe her as overwhelmed, her carefully maintained poise finally giving way to moments of private vulnerability. These were tears not just of personal sorrow, but of the immense weight of responsibility she bore, a weight that comes with being at the center of an institution centuries old. Every glance, every pause, carried with it the accumulated pressure of tradition, expectation, and history, reminding her that her position was about far more than titles. It was about legacy, perception, and the fragile balance of monarchy itself. Even King Charles, who had long relied on her strength beside him, faced his own private turmoil. Love, duty, and public perception collided in a way that left no easy path forward. Decisions made in that private setting would resonate far beyond the palace walls, affecting not just the Queen, but the entire royal institution. Every aide, advisor, and family member involved felt the ripple effects. Conversations that may have seemed casual or routine to outsiders were laden with tension, strategy, and urgency. Each step taken in those corridors, the measured footfalls of staff, the hurried whispers behind closed doors, the silent pauses between discussions carried the potential to alter history, to reshape how the monarchy would be perceived for generations to come. This was a moment where the intensely personal and the profoundly national intersected. While the cameras captured nothing more than the facade of silence, the reality behind the palace doors was far richer, far more human, and infinitely more complex. Here, heartbreak is intertwined with consequence. Here, loyalty, duty, and the expectations of millions weighed on one woman and one king in ways that no public statement could ever capture. The private sorrow of a queen became a mirror of the delicate balance of the monarchy itself, a reminder that even the strongest figures are not immune to the human experience of fear, grief, and uncertainty. In that hidden space, history paused for a moment. The eyes of the world might not have seen her tears, but they mattered. They reflected the stakes, the vulnerability, and the reality of carrying a crown in times of crisis. Behind the silence, behind the elegance of palace walls, a story unfolded that was both deeply personal and profoundly consequential. Tonight, the story of Queen Camilla reminds us that even within centuries of tradition, the monarchy is not immune to sudden upheaval. From the private tears behind palace walls to the global reactions on screens everywhere, her journey is a powerful story of endurance, loyalty, and heartbreak. As the palace navigates this uncertain chapter, questions remain. Will Camilla retain her hard-earned place? Can decades of patience and dedication withstand a crisis? And how will the monarchy balance legacy with the future? For viewers, this is more than royal gossip. It's history in the making. Every decision, every whisper, and every public reaction shapes the story of the crown and those who serve it. If you want to stay ahead of the news and uncover the truth as it unfolds, don't miss a moment. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and share your thoughts in the comments below. We'll continue bringing you the inside story, the secrets, and the heartbreaks that even cameras cannot fully capture. Stay with us as we reveal the next chapter in Queen Camilla's journey and discover what this historic moment means for the monarchy and the world.